so this is what I will be going through. So what is ESG actually? Yeah, and then why has ESG gotten prominence, especially the last couple of years? And does ESG investing lead to better performance? And lastly, how to apply this ESG investing? Okay. First, what does E and S and G stand for? Okay, so E stands for environment, S for social, C for corporate. Okay, and that's okay. This below the tree is something I thought of how to really describe it. So I put it in the context of a human being. Okay, so E stands for environment, how the company treats the environment, or like how a human being treats the environment. So social, yeah, is how the company treats other people, which is like the employees, their customers, suppliers, society. And then G, which is corporate governance, I would, it's like an example of how a company treats itself, like how a human being treats itself. Okay, so let me share an example. Let's say a context of a human being. What kind of human being actually scores well in the ESG? Okay, so if he scores well in ESG, well, if he treats the environment well, yeah. So for example, you don't waste things, you don't destroy things, but otherwise you may end up in jail, right? Yeah. So you don't vandalize things. So he's kind to the environment. Social, so he treats other people well. Yeah. For example, he'll be someone filial to his parents, kind to his friends, generous to his friends. Yeah. So generally he'll be a well-liked person. Yeah. So corporate governance is how he treats himself. Is this person disciplined, for example? Is this person honest? Yeah, because corporate governance is basically how a company governs itself, how it treats itself. Yeah. So then, of a human being, if he's a poor on ESG, yeah, he'll be someone who destroys the environment, don't care. Yeah, he can be, giving up pollutants. Like when he drives the car, when he stops, he doesn't off the engine, let the engine continue to run and pollute the environment. Someone like that. Social, well, someone maybe doesn't care much about the parents, unkind to friends, unscrupulous. Yeah, someone like that. Yeah, and corporate governance. So maybe no discipline, lack of integrity. Yeah, so that's how a human being. If I put this context in a human being, yeah, that's how I would describe E, S, and G. Right. So if you look at it at the bottom, environments are things to do more with climate change, sustainability, animal welfare. Social, yeah, diversity. The diversity of the workforce, yeah. Is there gender bias? Human rights, yeah. Let's say, do they oppress people somewhere along their supply chain? Consumer protection, yeah. That means are they truthful to their customer? Yeah, such that they give the consumer what they said they will give. Corporate governance, like a management structure, the culture. For example, one of the things is the chairman also the CEO? So now there's an advocate that the chairman and the CEO are different person, so that you don't have one person that's overpowering in the board. Employees relations, do they treat their employees well? The executive employees compensation, are they fair? So these are the things. So ESG is not something very tangible. Of course, in fact, there are the non-financial factors when we look at it. Of course, now later on I'll be sharing. There's some companies that start to quantify it, such that it could be useful. So let's say if you look at it, a human being, let's say if he scores well on ESG, generally risks are lower. Yeah. This person could succeed, and the success could be sustained. A person who's poor on ESG doesn't mean financially he won't do well. Yeah. But generally, the risk is higher. Yeah, that there becomes some backlash because you don't treat people well. Sustainability tends to be lower. Okay, so why has ESG gotten prominence? ESG has been around since 2005, so it's been 15 years old. Why has it only suddenly just gained prominence? Okay, so let's look at the inflow. So this is talking about funds inflow into ESG funds. Yeah, you can see 2019, there's been a big inflow of funds. And 2020, which I don't have it here, is the same story. Yeah, so we have more and more funds coming in. To this morning, I just met some fund manager. and they were sharing the same thing, that this ESG is gaining traction, especially for the expats in Singapore, which they are more concerned about ESG. Okay, so this is by Deloitte. So he's sharing that ESG mandated assets could make up half of all managed assets in the United States by 2025. And I think that's quite huge. So currently, if you look at the green bar, so the green bar are ESG mandated funds. The gray bar is the non-ESG mandated funds. So this is Deloitte as of 2018. So you can see at the time, the green bar is quite a lot smaller than the gray bar. So the expectation is by 2025, those two bars will be equal. And that's actually quite a big jump in terms of the ESG funds. So I think it's definitely gaining traction. So it's true, 2019-20, the fund inflow to ESG mandated assets has grown quite exponentially. Okay, so why is ESG gotten prominence? This is like some of you all mentioned. It's really to do good. So I think this is a survey. People, especially the younger generations, they want their investment to be aligned to their values, because they see their investment as an extension of themselves. So if I invest in companies that I believe in, then it is an extension of what I wish to do with my life. For example, let's say recycling. If it syncs with the person, then he may want to invest in recycling company because it represents an effort of him to be helping the world. Of course, I think, my personal view, I think it's really human being, we have been exploiting Mother Earth. So I think it's no longer, it's definitely more my view. So I think evidences are there, where I think we can all feel it as well. The climate is changing. I still remember when I walked in Singapore, maybe more than 3 years ago, I've never felt the sun beating on my skin. And then, but lately, in the recent few years, when I walk in the sun, it's a different kind of sun. I feel the sun, it's like, hitting on my skin. It felt different. Of course, the kind of rainfall, droughts, extreme temperatures, all this I think is a telltale signs that, there's imbalances in the environment. Of course, this pandemic as well, is I think part of a human being maybe has gone a step too far, to be exploiting the environment. And hence, I think they are starting from the European nations. They are becoming more aware of using renewable energy, recycling efforts. So those things are getting more and more prominent because of the things that are visible, that are not well with the environment. Of course, things like exploitation of certain labor. So that's also becoming, and it's the media, so it's becoming more prominent as well. So I think people who want their investment to be an extension of what they can do in this life, wants to be investing in these ESG funds. And next is, okay, from here, definitely if you look at the ESG focused funds, which is on the green one on the right side, the first column is the US, and then the world without US, and emerging markets. Okay, so you can look at annualized returns, but I say based on these studies that are done by BlackRock, it does seem that there's some slight edge in terms of performance of ESG focused funds. ESG, as I shared just now, they're actually the non-financial information. So it's actually not so easy to find. So the companies, now some companies are mandated to produce sustainability reports, which they'll share on things that are non-financials, which are more intangible things. So people, I think, in investing are very, very used to looking at tangible things, financial data. But ESG is not talking about those things. And hence, with the prominence of artificial intelligence, it makes big data available to mine this non-financial information. Such as they'll put those into say something that can be measured. So because with the proliferation of AI, that makes, I'll say, mining of data, non-financial data, a lot more plausible, and hence this ESG has gotten bigger. Okay, so I think these are the three main reasons where people want the investments to be an extension of themselves. Secondly, better performance, which I said, in my view, not conclusive. And thirdly, the ability to really sieve up non-financial data, which has gotten ESG more prominence recently. Okay, so this question I shan't ask for answers because I roughly shared just now. So does ESG investment lead to better performance? Okay, so I'll go back to the same charts. I think it's non-conclusive because the gap is not wide between the ESG focused funds and traditional funds, and lack of clear definition for ESG. And generally I'll say because of this proliferation, right? So generally the history is not long. So I don't think we have a very conclusive information yet to be working on. Look into one of the, because the ESG funds are generally not very long history. So I look at this one that is based on the MSCI ESG Leaders Index. Okay. So over the past 5 years, the black line represents that fund, which is by Old Mutual. Has actually outperformed the MSCI All World Index. Okay, so generally I said based on the BlackRock report and this one, there seems to be some outperformance of ESG funds. So I just want to have some flashback because one of the Grey Rhino show, we talk about Microsoft. In fact, this is actually one positive example. Because one of the example is actually how you treat people, the social part of it. In Steve Ballmer years, Microsoft is a lot more, you can say, more stuck up because they have been doing so well under the Bill Gates time. They're so dominant, and hence they are kind of quite exclusive. So they don't work with other people to develop things. They are my way or the highway kind of culture. So generally they don't treat I would say customers, suppliers very well. In the Steve Ballmer's year. And then when Satya Nadella took over, he decided to have really make over for their culture. So becoming a lot more inclusive, working as a community in collaboration with other developers, collaborate with Apple rather than compete with Apple. Learn to collaborate, learn to be more empathetic. I'll share in the next slide. So learn to be more, so embrace open source development, which is collaboration, partnership with competitors, empathy. Empathy means he listens. What does my customer want? What does my supplier want? And then to create services or product that other people want. So in fact, this is also, you can say, also part of the ESG, which is a social and the part of it. How does a company treat other people along its whole value chain? So that's actually one example of a company that has gotten better in terms of ESG. And if you look at it, it does help. Because if you look at the Steve Ballmer years from 2000 to 2014, in fact, Microsoft was really quite flat. And then in the Satya Nadella's years, the 6 years, Microsoft share price has increased about 5 times. Okay, lastly, I just want to share my take on this part. So result I say is inconclusive. As I said, due to relatively short history, lack of common standards to define ESG. But my belief is, I think the degree of outperformance will be negligible in the short term. Over the long term, a person who is, I would say, scores better on ESG, a company that scores better on ESG would have a better risk-adjusted returns, with significant lesser risk. Because I say, you're going to get people's trust, people's cooperation. You get less fine because you don't pollute the environments. You don't get fined for bribery, corruption. So all these does help. And then probably the government will view them better, because they are not the difficult, troublesome people, troublesome companies to be taken care of. So I think over long term, risk will be lower, returns will be higher. And also there's this thing called self-fulfilling prophecy, right? Because if you say currently from about 26% of US funds that is ESG mandated. And if the Deloitte's research is right, by 2025, half of the funds will be ESG mandated, which means the demand for companies that scores well in ESG will be higher, because more funds will be going along that line. So with more demand, it also fetches higher valuation, because it's just basic economic supply and demand. So I think that will also be a self-fulfilling prophecy, that companies that score well in ESG will be doing better over a longer period. That's my personal view. Okay, so lastly, how to apply ESG investing. Okay, so I shared there are two types. Okay, my definition of negative screening may be different from what you Google. We can't just use ESG scoring to invest. It is not, we can't just use this by itself. Okay, so what do I mean by negative screening? Okay, negative screening means I will first go and look at what are the companies I want to buy using my other metrics other than the ESG. So I will look at what I want to buy. And then after I form a portfolio, let's say I got 10 companies, then I may want to take a look using this MSCI ESG risk ratings. Okay, there are other ones like from Morningstar. Then just to make sure of all that I've chosen, the 10, none of them score very badly in the risk rating. If they do, then I may want to think twice. Is this company risk going to be higher over long term? Or if it goes against your own principles, because of what this company is doing. Okay, so I say run the portfolio through your own portfolio, through the ESG risk rating to ensure none score badly. Just to show you how this look like. This is from MSCI. So you can go to MSCI ESG risk rating, and then you key in the company. Okay, so like Microsoft is a low on risk rating, 14.9. Okay, so in terms of software, it is number 23 out of 735. Global Universe, is 790 out of 12,000 companies. And then they look at their exposure, based on the E, S, and G, and then the management, to see how does the company rates. Okay, so that's called negative screening. Positive screening, this is actually a philosophy used by one of my friends. It's called Kumbun. So he uses the HERO investment methodology, which H stands for honorable, solving high value problems. E stands for exponential. These companies that grow exponentially are resilient. These companies that are not only growing fast, but are resilient, sustainable. Organization with good organization culture. Okay, so this is for positive screening. That means as we are looking for the company itself, you are actually using sort of ESG framework. Because HERO is kind of derived from the sustainability index by the United Nations. So the framework is actually making use of this the United Nations, which they have 17 goals, United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or the SDGs, to actually sieve out companies that are fulfilling these sustainable goals, which then is formed part of this HERO framework. So using that to actually find out good companies. So this HERO is talking about making the world more intelligent, the world healthier, the world safer, the world more delightful, the world greener and more sustainable. Okay, I shan't go into the details, but what I'm trying to say is using positive screening means you use the ESG, apply it as part of your stock selection methodology. So talk about one of these companies. It's quite an interesting company, not very well known, 8 billion market cap. So generally still quite a small cap to mid cap kind of company. So this company actually does recycling. I think Singapore has got a few. So that if you just put your cans, your bottle inside there, and then the machine will actually sort by itself. So there's very little human intervention. The whole machine will sort by itself and then send for recycling. So that's one way of recycling, which is a positive way to help to reduce waste and to help the environment, to make the world greener and more sustainable. Okay, so I just want to end it here, but I don't want to take too long. Okay, So I like to first reiterate, a high ESG score itself is not a good enough reason to be investing in a company. Just like you look for a very kind man. Yeah. A kind man doesn't mean he's a very rich man. He could be a very kind man, he could be very friendly to you. Yeah, but he may not be very rich. But investing, that's what you want, right? You want investing to bring you wealth. Yeah. So you want your investment to get richer and richer. Yeah. So I said it needs to be coupled with other factors. Things like innovation, good business model, strong competitive advantage, the drive and the hunger of the management. Yeah. So a couple of all this, I think ESG is going to help make it more sustainable, because the management, the company is doing the right thing, treating people well, treating the environment well, and behaving themselves well. So I think my take is long-term, it's going to be a more sustainable business at a lower risk of things like fine or certain things they cannot do because they breach standards, treating people badly, people don't want to cooperate with them. So I think long-term, my take is ESG works.